Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be back to an UFI Connects. This is actually our first one of 2022. So welcome, and sorry it's in February, not January. We're very, very pleased to have with us the G3 partners today, which are the AIPC, ICCA, and UFI. So we will be having SVEN BOSSU, SENTHIL GOPINATH, Kai Hattendorf, all CEOs of those respective organizations. And we are here to talk about the industry update, kind of the status of the recovery, what are we expecting, what's going to be the same, and just give you a little bit of an outlook of where we are. This will be, for anybody who is new to the UFI Connects format, we typically will do a bit of a presentation and then pretty open Q&A. Please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat throughout. We will come to them. I will be your cruise director for the day, and I will share the most important responsibilities of the day, which is controlling the mute button with Pascal, who is, as always, our fantastic support here on UFI Connects. So I would like to start by asking SENTHIL to share a little bit about how the G3 came to start working together, and give us a little bit of what's been going on, where we've come from, and where we're going.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hi, everybody. So nice to see so many of you. So still, it's all about engagement from our industry. So fantastic. Just to quickly go back onto when the G3 Alliance came together. It was a couple of years back in 2019, where the three associations got together and identified the need for synergy, collaborative effort. And then, of course, that's where it was birth of G3. The main objective of G3 was primarily to look at how do we share the knowledge, how do we share best practices, the key findings among our members with one voice. And I must say that in spite of what we have challenging years in the last 2 years, we have been continuously evaluating and in a robust way coming forward as a G3 Alliance and sort of sharing with our members, be it reopening strategies, be it what is the COVID strategies available across the world, what the best practices from a health protocol, and now we are moving into the next level from a reopening strategy. So we keep on constantly identifying through this great partnership what is necessary and what is the most crucial requirement of our community, our members from all three associations, and of course wider community as well, so that everybody can benefit out of that. So I'm glad to say that the active engagement and sharing excellent relationship with our three associations, we have been achieving quite a lot of more prudent, more required information out, sending to our members across the world. And then we are looking forward to more and more coming this year and in the future years. Another initiative like this UFI Connect session today, it's again similar session to look at again sharing what's new and what's the future of our industry. So yeah. That's in a nutshell, Caitlin. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So with that as a bit of context, let's get to what we want to talk about today, which is where are we with the recovery? So I'm going to ask each of you to kind of respond from your perspective, from what you're seeing in the associations that you run, as well as more broadly. Where do you feel that we are in the recovery? What do you think is important to share with people about that? Kai, can I ask you to start us off?
Sure. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Apologies if you hear a drill in the background every now and then. We got construction workers around, but they promised me to take an extended coffee break now. Now, where are we in the recovery? If you're following the UFI social media feeds on LinkedIn, etc., you will have seen a stream of announcements from various countries, predominantly in Europe and Asia, about reopenings. And we're lifting off restrictions as the Omicron wave is peaking and has peaked. And this is building momentum, and it's building momentum at a most important and critical time for exhibitions, because Omicron hit us as an industry at a difficult time in the busy winter season and in the busy first quarter, leading to major markets postponing a lot of shows and still canceling a few. And leading to, I mean, the way I see you on the call, leading to shows like IMAX moving a few weeks back in the calendar towards the end of May, early June now. I think it seems you made the right choice, right, by moving into that kind of slot, because we've seen the whole of Scandinavia lifting restrictions, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland announcing similar moves last night. The Netherlands have reopened. Germans will agree today on a timetable to plan the timetable for reopening, which is the German word for we'll get there soon. In France, lifted restrictions around capacities, etc. All of this is heading the right way. Over in Asia, travel restrictions are being lifted. Malaysia is supposed to announce the lifting of all travel-related or COVID-related travel restrictions. Singapore has announced new VTL arrangements, vaccinated travel lanes. Australia will reopen its borders for international travel on February 21. So all of this is headed in the right direction. So it's timely that we now are finishing the preview of the year with the UFI Global Barometer that we will release next week. And while we're still crunching the final numbers and putting the whole document together, the message the industry is sending is very clear, and it's a very positive one. We're no longer talking about the light at the end of the tunnel, but the light that we see is actually the sunset. The sun is coming up. The industry is getting back to business. There will be challenges around that, and we will touch on those: sustainability, staffing, customer retention, etc. But the industry will bounce back and will bounce back strongly. And globally, the exhibition industry expects to be back at 71% of its 2019 record year when it comes to revenues in 2022. So I'm here to tell you, winter was coming, winter came, winter passed, and now it's spring. Okay.
Thank you very much, Kai. That's very optimistic sounding. Sven, what have you got to share with us?
Well, coming after Kai, what can I say more, right? It's difficult. No, I think I fully agree with Kai. It's a very positive way we're seeing for the moment. I still believe that there are certain countries where we still have travel restrictions, like big countries like Japan, like China, etc. So that remains an area of attention, but that will change at a given moment, I think. And the other thing is, indeed, it's a lot of events. So venues are really being packed up with smaller events. It's more regional, national, but it's great to see two people coming together again. SENTHIL and I were just in Rome for the IAPCO annual conference. It's just such a joy to see everybody again. So that's the thing. People are eager to see each other again. There's an eagerness to meet. There's an eagerness to travel. And indeed, that comes down to the momentum that Kai described. So yes, we need to put sunglasses on for the moment.
Great. SENTHIL, anything else that you feel like the gentlemen haven't already covered you want to share? SENTHIL, I made jokes about being on mute, but you are on mute.
Sorry, I got yeah, again, there's some noise around here. You know, I'd like to echo what Kai and Sven said. I think the customer confidence is growing as well while looking at all these destinations opening up. Just to give you an example, we, on a recent survey just about 4 weeks ago, clearly association segment says about 62% of them want to do face-to-face meetings this year, and of course 23. So they all are planning. Everybody looking at these border opening clearly shows that the events which were postponed or which events was rescheduled are going to happen across the world. Now we also see predominantly in Middle East, Latin America, North America, and even part of Asia, and then Africa are really moving forward sooner. And then all their plans, which they have been planned for mid this year, has been accelerated. They're bought it in advance to the first quarter. So, for example, Meetings Africa really switching off next week in Johannesburg. So we see quite a lot of positive across the world.
Now, those numbers that you're talking about, do you have any comparison for them from previous years?
Absolutely. If we go pre-pandemic, yeah, we had about 80% from association community doing that, which was pretty much face-to-face. There are a few components where the face-to-face was not happening. So we are very much 62 is very, very encouraging figures compared to 2019.
Okay, well, I think that is great. That gives us a little bit of an idea of kind of where we are today. The next thing we want to talk about, and I'd like everybody who's a participant to bear with me on this one. We're going to try to put out a poll where, let's see, hopefully you can all see it, and I have not screwed it up already. We would like to ask you what you think will remain the same for our industry this year. So we will do what will remain the same, then we're going to talk about what's going to change and what's going to be uncertain. But if I can get you all to start putting in some thoughts around what you think will remain the same as the first topic here, and it is a write-in answer, so either respond to the poll, or I think a couple people may be putting it in the chat. Go nuts, do what seems right to you. And in the meantime, I'll just fill the silence for no particular reason. All right, I will give it about 10 more seconds. We'll give us just about, and then we will show what people have written. And if you didn't get a chance to answer to here, stick it in the chat. All right, I'm ending the poll. And I'm gonna share the results maybe. Let's see if this all worked. What can anybody see? Can you see the results? Because I cannot. Can anybody see the details to that?
No, not yet.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we start talking about it? And I will look to find wherever these results have gone, and we will share them after you talk about it. Sorry, I said it was new. I said you'd have to bear with me. So that's what's happening. Sven, do you want to take what you think will remain the same while I try to find this data?
Yeah, of course. I think what remains the same is basically that organized meetings will continue to be the driver for change, collaboration, and innovation. So that has not changed. I think what will be amplified going forward is the purpose. Is that people will see the purpose of organized events. They haven't been meeting each other for 2 years. They have been missing it. They now see the value. And what is great is that that value is now not only understood by organizers and participants, but also understood by local authorities, by governments who truly understand now the importance of our industry. So that has not changed, but I think what is great is that there is an even better understanding of the importance.
I found the answers. Kai, do you want to go next? And then I will share the answers before we let SENTHIL share his thoughts.
So to echo what Sven said, what will not change is that we know that what we do is important. What will hopefully has changed that others have also understood that what we do is important. And while this sounds stupidly simple, it is a huge, huge difference. Because if we can break through to the policymakers and help them understand that business events are not a sub-segment of tourism, but instead that we are a strategic asset and strategic tool for the development of whole industries and regions, then that is a big, big game changer. What will also not change is, and this has been vindicated for the next generation of industry leaders and C-suite colleagues, female, male, and whatever they wish to be going forward, is that the importance of face-to-face has really, really been experienced to a level that it won't be questioned again before everybody on the call here has either retired or been replaced by an avatar.
Like a really cool avatar, right? Like not just any avatar.
Yours will be the coolest.
I thought it might be. All right, who wants to see what the results are that I've just claimed to found, which I do have, but now, where is it? I think it's here. I assume you can all see my screen. I will read them if not. So what will remain the same? Uncertain, messy travel, smaller events. Remaining the same, engagement connections, the place to be to make business, international travelers not being able to attend due to complicated travel rules, hybrid meetings, reduced attendance, safety protocols, still some uncertainty with COVID, greater adoption of tech, that COVID will still be with us in some form, the joy of meeting in person, and that being the preferred mode of business, desire to meet face-to-face, the need to meet, the value of face-to-face, meeting face-to-face. I think a lot of people really want to see each other face-to-face. Challenges attracting talent, flexible working, uncertainty, expect the unexpected, be flexible and open to change, the search for meaningful conversations and meetings, caution and approach to stand sales. SENTHIL, now that we've got a little bit extra info there, anything you want to pick up on from either what has been said before or what has just been put in that poll?
I think, thanks, Caitlin, some great answers there. What we discovered in the last 2 years, the engagement, I will call it more, rephrase it as community engagement. That's here to stay. I think we all have really learned how important it is, be it online community engagement or even face-to-face engagement. I think it will be definitely more face-to-face, but we as an industry overall, in spite of which segment we are in, whether meetings, conference, exhibitions, incentives, it has taught us in the last 24 months, the engagement is so vital. And I think that's going to remain very strongly. If at all, it's going to be further enhanced rather than more than changing. The other element is that the content and the experience that we went through in the last 24 months again, the content, we have been really elevating our content across all activities we have been doing. That's going to unchanged, because when I say unchanged, we will really going to further and further innovate, look for new models and new ways of building content within our industry, even bringing a lot of content from outside our industry. That's going to remain. And of course, event experience itself. We have tried every model possible in the last 2 years. So even with moving face to face, we will really experience the new models over and over again, so which is very good for our industry.
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of talk about models and how that is evolving. And, you know, you've just said we've tried every one possible, and I'm sure that's true today and won't be true tomorrow. In that seems to be a really big area of innovation, and somebody who's taken notes somewhere, we should probably do that as an UFI Connects upcoming. Kai, you unmuted there. Did you want to add into that before we move on to something else, or?
No, I just accidentally hit the button, because that's what you do on a digital event. You misbehave.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Let's try another poll. Let's see if I can do it more seamlessly this time. You know, it went okay last time, but let's see if we can improve. So our next one will be, what will change in our industry this year? So again, we'll give you a minute, respond to the questions. I now know where the data is kept, so this should work out swimmingly. And no putting funny things just because you know I'm going to read it out either. "15 seconds, get them in. Last thoughts. Hurry, hurry." Okay, and I'm closing it. Okay, now. So this time, let us. Okay. I would say, can you see it? But honestly, I'm not looking at the chat. So even if you can't, I won't know.
Yep.
So the responses that we have this time are: what will change? Talent, confidence in planning, event formats, HR approaches. I wonder what we mean by HR approaches there. If you put that right in the chat, what you mean by that. Ease of event capacity restrictions. Hybrid events will be a must. Short lead decision making. There will be a blitz of PR and marketing efforts. Less running machinery on the show's floors. Availability of service providers. Greater focus on strategic partnerships. Unfortunately, less personal meetings. Virtual trade fairs will die out. Digital integration with live events will be key. Getting back to talking about other topics besides COVID, youth and climate. Style of hybrid events, physical scale down in square meters, willingness to travel, recovery of traditional event formats, more focused events, high level content, hopefully less digital. Be far fewer digital only events. Event sizes shrink, hybrid events. Event size shrinks, hybrid event forever. That sounds like it should be a bumper sticker. Budgets will be set to minimum 20 to 50% lower. There will be a stronger demand for more technology-based solutions in the stands, traveling behavior, smaller events, more regional, national consolidation, more online activity, and grateful to meet in person. Okay, So who are we going to have kick us off for this one? I don't remember who started the last time. So SENTHIL, I know you went last. You go first this time.
Thank you, Caitlin. I think something which won't be more change, I would call it again, the customer confidence. I think we see that more and more coming up to, not the pre-pandemic level, but there is a lot of confidence level with all the borders opening that's coming from an event format. Yes, I do agree on some of the points. Yes, we'll redefine, we look at what the new formats are, but our customer has looked at, again, I'm going back to from an experience point of view, what's needed. So we need to, which I said earlier, won't change, but again, I'm looking at the other side of it. The experience format needs to look at a change, and it will look at new ways of doing things. So we as organizers of events bring our audience together as to look at very innovative models there.
Kai, you want to add anything, challenge anything? Oh.
I'm most
and I also see apologies to everybody for posting the wrong thing again. I will fix it right now. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Caitlin. What surprises me the most is if this would be a word cloud, no word would be particularly large, as it would be difficult to cluster that variety of answers that you all gave, which I would, the former journalist in me, would interpret as we will still need to consolidate what we see changing. And that we are still, as an industry, quite uncertain where the priorities will be to drive that change. I think there are three things that come out of the answers. The one is the regionalization, or the end of globalization, put it as you want, with more regional events instead of one event that captures the global audience. And that driven by travel restrictions, driven by hybrid, driven by an omnichannel approach, multiple business model ways that will drive this forward. A second cluster is around the young people, the staffing narrative, the HR challenge. And I think the third major one, and probably the most overarching one, because this is about the biggest venue we have, planet Earth, is the sustainability and climate issue that is beginning to leave its mark in business decisions rather rapidly now in ways we haven't probably not really realized as an industry. Caitlin.
Thank you. Sven, anything else?
Yeah, I think what we see change happening there is that as an industry, we simply need to work harder to convince people to come to our events. What the last 24 months have done is that if you look at simply consummation of content, if you're lying in your couch with a bowl of popcorn and consuming content, you'll need to offer something really good and entice you to get out of your couch and take a plane and travel to a venue and actually have a face-to-face meeting. I think their venues, organizers, and associations are doing a great job by creating overarching experiences, which is great. And then to echo Kai's remark on sustainability, what is great, I think, is that sustainability is turning into really tangible things. I was at an event this weekend taking place in a hotel of a big chain, and they were able to calculate in an instant the ecological footprint the event would have. And so they would say, this is the waste you use, this is the power you use, this is, etc., giving that data immediately, instantly to the organizers, which becomes really powerful if indeed you want to become truly sustainable. So it's no longer, yes, we have done the pledge. This is transforming the pledge into a roadmap and into action. And that for me is a really positive sign.
Great. Okay. What do you all think? Third time's a charm, and I will actually be able to get out the last poll without seamlessly? No one knows. What remains uncertain? So what are you? I think we've all become experts at this. Tell me what you don't know. We'll keep this one open. Also, I do see some people are starting to send me questions or putting them in the chat here too, absolutely great. We will go through this poll and then we'll open up to questions where we can talk about any of these topics. So love to know if you agree with what's been said, love to know if you disagree, you want to challenge it, you think there's big things we're missing. So we will do kind of this what remains uncertain, and then we will get to that. But feel free to start pinging across your questions and I'll start making a queue out of them. 15 more seconds for the last poll of the day. Anyone's guess whether or not I will be able to find the results? 5, 4, 3, 2, and it's done. Now, share my screen. Also, I apologize for the amount I talk to myself. Can you all see question 3? Again, doesn't, oh yes, I see nodding, that's good. What remains uncertain? Travel, the lasting effects of COVID to the economy and to mental health, certainly mine. When all travel restrictions will end, whether this year will be the end of the pandemic as suggested, travel and whether Hong Kong can ever bounce back. Ooh, love to hear from some Hong Kong people in the chat about that. International travel, attendance number at events, staff attraction and retention, everything. When the next crisis will arise, it's a little doom and gloom. New variants, the long-term future of trade shows overall, international visitors coming back, World War III. My goodness, folks, uncertainty is apparently where we are all living. Long-term commitments, customer behavior, the length of the pandemic, timing of restrictions being lifted, especially travel restrictions, business models, the size of events in the future, social distancing rules, travel restrictions, whether or not local governments will get out of the way and let events happen, government decision making in regards to business events, travel restrictions, COVID variants, of course, and money, that another COVID variant will appear. Question is, what is best way to move on? Okay, I will put those in the chat while we start talking about it. Kai, I think we are, no, Sven. Sven, are you going first this time? And I would particularly like your hot takes on World War III to start with.
I do hope diplomacy will rule once again. It looks like it for the time being. Now, I think the answers see that are clear, right? We've gone through 2 years of uncertainty around pandemic, around the response for the government to that pandemic, and that's not going to go away immediately. But I do believe that there is now a far better understanding of authorities on how to deal with this type of crisis. So that for me is a good thing. For me, the big question mark next to that is corporate behavior. So corporates stepped out of big organized meetings over the last 2 years. They saw a drastic cost saving. They saw a drastic cut in travel expenses, etc. Will corporates actually start to reinvest back into big events? And me coming from corporate, I'm not entirely sure they're going to go back to the really big global meetings, as Kyle, when you mentioned. It might be smaller meetings, it might be low-cost meetings, but it's definitely going to look different. But corporates, for me, today, it's completely uncertain. And they're a big driver when it comes to revenue. So that's the question mark I have.
Okay, great. SENTHIL, you have just come up on my screen, so I guess that must mean you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. Sorry, you can see me there. Yeah, I think for me, the two main key elements are the customer behavior and the customer trends. I think most importantly, that will put us into a more uncertain situation. We'll have to keep working on that. We all said that very valuable points in the chat box, but the most important thing is that how this customer behavior and the trend is going to change. We know that we all want a face-to-face event. We want to reopen, get our customers on the show floor and get into our conference. But will this behavior will be on a certain issue? Can we plan, the members of our associations can plan on a long-term basis? That's going to be one of the two main uncertainty. But of course, it's a matter of time. More customer confidence builds, it's going to change. The other important factor is that bringing the skills back into our industry. Yes, again, it's a long-term process because we lost a lot of great skills from our industry due to the COVID situation. So that will remain uncertain, at least for 2022, and then we'll come back in 23 well.
Kai, anything else you want to add in?
Very, very little. I think we know about some uncertainties like regulatory pressures, be it related to COVID, other variations of COVID, other events, and that impact the way we operate. And we can advocate to minimize the impact these have. The customer piece is a critical one. We said last year we need to get through 3 phases of the recovery. Phase 1 is essentially over. We are getting our license to operate back, and we have the procedures in place to run shows safely and successfully for our customers. Phase 2 is to make sure the customers have a good event and have success, and that they then talk about it and we celebrate their success stories. And that's the phase where we are in right now, and that will then lead to phase 3. We all know the power of FOMO that will bring the bigger players that are still hesitant back onto the show floors. And the third element, and both SENTHIL and SVEN already touched on it, is how do we reposition our industry, our sector, as the coolest place for talent to work in. And I believe we need a new staffing narrative, and watch this space. We'll launch an initiative from UFI on that in a few days, where we are putting out a grant program to attract the people who want to work on this new staffing narrative over the coming months, to put ourselves in a position to advocate on the job market for our sector. As we all know about the different talents and skills we have in our industry, and most of us, as we always say, fell into it. So we need to have a more structured way of making people fall in love with the industry so they can actually fall into the industry. And that for me is of course an uncertain. History has shown that we will succeed because we never failed on this, but that's our next major call as an industry, in my view. Caitlin.
Fantastic.
I can't stop this old habit when I'm done of getting back into the studio.
Well, that's coming live to you from London. Thank you very much, Kai Hattendorf. We will now turn over to audience Q&A. So everybody, feel free to start putting in the chat things you agree with, things that have not been picked up, things you think we are completely wrong about and you want to get on and tell us. Alice, I am going to unmute you. I'm going to ask to unmute. So for everyone, I can ask to unmute you. Then you will have to click a thing that says, yes, I agree to be unmuted or something of that nature. It will flash up on your screen. I will call on you, ask your question, and then we will have folks respond to you. So Alice, hopefully that works.
Hi.
Hiya. You want to ask the question that you have for the panelists?
Oh, because the panelists represent each of them a very strong organization. I wonder if we could continue on with the collective efforts in highlighting the importance of the business events industry that really affects the visitor economy in all our cities. So very often, once the pandemic is over, woo, they forgot what happened, right? They go on and make the decisions any way they want. But how can we push on for our own industry to continue to revive and blossom from having this, having such a drastic experience? It has affected all of us, plus our neighbors, our friends. How can we move on and have a strong voice collectively?
Thank you very much. Since Sven is nodding along the most to you, we're going to go to him to answer this question.
Okay. No, I think the collaboration that our three associations have is something which we'll continue to do. It has proven very useful, very productive over the last 2 years. We're actually close to finalizing another piece of collateral which we will get out to the industry. Perhaps Kai can explain a little bit more on that one. But we have clearly understood that by collaborating, we have a stronger voice. And that has been working perfectly and will continue to do so.
Did you want to add anything into that?
I think we paid the price in the last 2 years for having been lazy as an industry. We've been too lazy to make our point towards the decision makers and the policy makers. We wanted to be left alone to do our thing. Now, the last 2 years, we've changed that through collaboration, through setting up actually offices where we didn't have offices before to speak with one voice as an industry. Now we have a global manifesto for the business or for the events industry that the Joint Meetings Industry Council has produced. We have the Net Zero Carbon Events Initiative to get us ahead of the curve as an industry and make us, put us into the group of those businesses who actually shape their own future, than having it shaped for them. We now have a lobby office in Washington, DC, where many associations collaborate, UFI being one of them, to make our points towards US lawmakers. And we've had a lobbying office in Brussels for close to 10 years already, which is now translating over the years into us having a voice in policymaking on the European level. And they just released a new white paper earlier today. Now, going forward, we cannot afford to be lazy again. So once this storm has passed, we have to continue to invest into these advocacy resources and into these government dialogues and the ongoing dialogues with the policymakers. Only then can we avoid falling back to where we were before the pandemic. It's like paying your insurance fee. You're paying your insurance fee every year, and once in a while, you're really happy you did it when you need it. So the advocacy is here to stay for us as a sector. And that, I think, is one of the major learnings. And then over time, we will see that our positions will be adopted. And we are already seeing that in a number of markets around the world, where the responsibility for business events is being shifted from the Ministry of Tourism to the Ministry of Commerce or the economy. And those are encouraging achievements, only 2 years in. Caitlin.
So did you want to add in anything else, or are you ready to move to the next question?
Just a quick point there, Caitlin. I think we moved away, we learned a good lesson. We moved away from a subsector to a more economic driver, I would say, that globally policymakers have understood. I think in the last 2 years, we as ECOS has been constantly looking at every opportunity at every ground level in any region possible to kickstart the face-to-face opportunity and to showcase to the policymakers that this particular segment, the business event segment, can up and run much faster than any other segment. Yes, given the health protocols, following all those rules, still we ensured through regional hubs, through regional summits, everywhere we were showcasing to the policymakers that our advocacy work has been continuing constant. And the policymakers, I must say, really has come forward looking at this industry could be one of the industries can be up and running sooner post-pandemic level. So the economic outlook looks really good, but I agree with two of my colleagues that constantly it needs investment and education from our side so that we continue to do the advocacy part rather than when we are busy face-to-face, we should not forget that it's happening. So yeah, that's my point.
Thank you very much. Marta, I do see your hand, but first I'm going to go to, and I'm so sorry, is it Ataj?
Yes, Ataj.
Hi, Ataj. I'd like you to ask your question, and then I'm going to throw a spanner into the works, and I'm going to ask Michael Krupp to come on to respond to it, because I think he's going to be great, and then I will also let the panelists. So go ahead.
Sure. So I just wanted to check, I mean, in 2022, it's a good sign that the COVID restrictions are easing, but wanted to check, in terms of China and US especially, and do you know how speedily their recovery is going to be? Are there any worries about the speed of the recovery, for example, especially for 2022?
Michael, did you want to take that? Do you want to start there, or would you?
Well, yeah, thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, I think I already answered in the group. My expectation is 50% max of 2019, which for China was for us the best year, not only for us, for the whole industry. Reason is that number one, there are too many, from political point of view, important events, including national congresses, Asian Games, promotion of city governors into central governments, re-election of the president, and so on. These are all, unfortunately, events with China still following the zero tolerance COVID strategy or policy, whatever you call it, which until these, especially re-election of Xi, is over, I don't see any big major release of policy. So I'm seeing the same we had last year, like a yo-yo, like on and off, 1 month show, 1 month no show, 1 month show again. So let's see, we expect here, hopefully a 6 to 7 months showtime period, and that would bring us back roughly 50% of 2019.
Thank you so much. And could you please let me know, do you also have approximate predictions for the US, Europe, and Middle East as well? Like, are they expected to recover more quickly compared to China, or slowly?
Yeah, so why don't I turn that one over to, let's turn that one over to Kai first. Do you want to respond to that?
Thank you.
I have a slide for that. We are not down to the country level yet when it comes to the barometer for next week. But Michael, we have Asia Pacific in total, and indeed China is lowering the average there. For Asia Pacific, the barometer forecasts 58% of revenues compared to 2020, compared to 2019. For North America, we're up to 80. So 80% of the record year of 2019 is what the exhibition side, and I need to stress these are exhibitions, not conventions and exhibitions, what the exhibitions industry expects in North America to have this year's revenues. For comparison, Central and South America, 72%, Europe, 75%, Middle East, Africa, 68%.
Thank you so much.
Caitlin.
Any other panelists want to weigh in on any of that, or you feel it's covered?
Yeah, I think
Great. Yeah.
Just one point from the conference point of view also, yeah, we see much quicker recovery in Europe. Of course, North America and Africa and Middle East as well, from those 4 regions. The events are returning much faster and much more in a structured way. Yes, Asia Pacific is still slowly moving forward depending on the reopening. So I think, yeah, that will be the phase 2.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Marta, I would feel bad if that was actually your hand just sat up there for all this time, but why don't we go to you next?
That's okay. I wanted to come back to something that SVEN said about corporations and companies and whether there would be a way of, again, lobbying together to these groups about why events are different from just normal business travel. Because we all read lots of articles about how business travel is not going to ever come back, and that people are not going to go all over the world just for one meeting. But, you know, the sort of the efficiency of going to an event and meeting multiple and sort of maybe saving 20 trips and having the efficiency of it and how it's sustainable and interesting. So, you know, are there stories that we could be telling better about the efficiency and value of business events compared to just normal travel?
Fantastic, thank you. Sven, do you want to start with that one?
Of course. You know, for me, having global events like the one I used to run, Cyprus, which was a financial event, made perfect sense, right? So you had all the bankers under one roof doing all their business at 4 days' time. And it's pretty easy to do the calculation if you were to do that in mini business trips, what the impact would be. So I think, yes, as associations, we can make the case that actually having organized events is really good for business, and it's also good for doing it in a sustainable way. So yes, definitely. But it's something we need to work on together, knowing that every event or every industry is slightly different.
SENTHIL, anything else you want to add into that?
Absolutely. We have created the awareness across the world. And of course, I'm not only talking about the Net Carbon Zero initiative, but the awareness in the last 2 years, it's showcasing so important from RFP, from a session conductor, from a content point of view. If you see within our industry, association segment is also extensively looking at how important for us to look at this sort of a combined effort so that we contribute to sustainability in a larger way. So it's a matter of time, and something lacking is the education and investment in to achieve this goal. So I think with those two being achieved, we will get there sooner.
Kai, anything else you want to put in there?
They covered it perfectly.
Great. Then perhaps Mr. Duck, we could go to you as our next question. You should be able to unmute now.
I can now. What's the question?
Airlines are very important to our industry and hotel. Many are going through huge changes. Did you want to go on that, or were you just sharing?
I was sharing. You asked me to share, so I did. I put a question out there. You know, sitting here in Hong Kong, we've got obviously a home airline with Cathay Pacific with an extraordinary position of having some 180 aircraft sitting on the aircraft apron day in, day out for the past year and a half. It's just incredible to consider, let alone Thai Airways in Thailand and Malaysian and also with Philippines and Indonesia. All of these airlines are having very challenging times. We know the hotel groups are also having very challenging times, even though that many in the region have done staycations for local people, etc. It's still nowhere near the earnings that they had back in 2018 or 17, etc. So I know throughout the rest of the world, okay, some of it is coming back and figures are looking a bit better, but still, they're still a long way away from the numbers and the amount of money that was going through, that's going through at the moment. And so I think that their story, hotel groups, airlines, and our story do link. I totally agree with Kai that, you know, we have for so many years tried to get away from us being a member of the tourism fraternity because we are commerce, but we actually have some elements which mix the two. But I would certainly prefer throughout the world that we are looked after, or we have our voice through the Ministry of Commerce, because that's what we do drive our business with. But I think it's a very critical question in terms of how we work together for the future, particularly for international trade fairs, both mid-distance and long distance, as well as locals. So we all need each other, and we all need to hold hands and make our voice heard. That's one element. Can I just say, whilst I'm on there, and I've got the microphone.
Oh, well, we've unmuted you. I don't know.
I'm on a run. Sven talking about corporate meetings and the marketing budgets. I think that's really important. You know, we can feel it, and we talk to many customers, buyers as well as exhibitors in regards to this. So I do think there are going to be fewer people traveling to our shows, but we've all heard about it. You know, we're going to get the quality people who are only going to come. But I think that is going to be, there is some truth in that. And Kai's element on talent, very important for us going forward for our industry, is critical. We've seen so much change going on. And as for Hong Kong, you know, and I know that Monica is on the line here as well, and please add if she wishes here. You know, we are going through a very challenging time in terms of the policies that are happening here or that have been going on. But I do think it will come back. We are all optimists who live in Hong Kong. You know that. And we've been through it before in 2003 with SARS, which was really terrible. And this is okay longer and affects the whole world, but it's a slightly different scenario. But we are positive that it's going to change, and it may take a bit more time and suffer, but we are a resilient place, Hong Kong, and the people here. Okay? And you're on mute, by the way.
Gosh darn it! But my whole credibility is now shot. We may as well end the session now. But Monica, did you want to add in anything there?
No, right. What Michael was saying about the situation in Hong Kong is it was unfortunate that Omicron have just caught up with us, and with our policy similar to mainland China, that our government very much adopting the zero case principle, that we don't tolerate any cases. So we have a very tight control at the moment. The venues are closed, and you know, restaurants are not open in the evenings, and you know, travel restriction has been tightened, and all that. It's tough. I mean, that we have to wait. That we have to wait a little bit. But as Michael was saying about talents, what Kai was saying, that we have to build our narrative and to you know, attract talents. I totally agree, we have to attract, but also we cannot wait. At the moment, for instance, in Hong Kong, a lot of our talents, particularly the young one, are leaving the industry. They're going to digital marketing, they're going to the medical field, they're going to, you know, different area, because they have enough, you know, the patient waiting. They don't want to wait anymore, and they want to grab other opportunities. So we do have a void if the business return, if we are, you know, opening soon, we might have a gap. Very honestly, we might have some difficulty to deal with the returning of business. If it's even returned with 70% or even 50%, we might have an issue. So we actually hiring, despite the financial situation. We have some young people coming in now, even when there's no event going on, to go through under trainings, and because it takes time. Our industry is fun, but it also take a lot of efforts and knowledge to deliver quality events and good customer service, and etc. So it takes time. So I guess we really have to look at the long term when we plan our talent development and retentions and recruitment and all that. We really have to look at the long term instead of the immediate financial status. So that is important. And also, I think it's also been touched on, while we're all focusing on the pandemics and the reopening, and there are other issues continue going, you know, the deterioration of our environment, and that we have to continue to look at. And as earlier the speaker was talking about collaborations, I think it has really proven in the last 2 years how important collaboration is. And I think on the associations level, on our industry association level, I'm glad to see the collaboration and continued collaboration. But also, I think amongst our colleagues, amongst our peers, amongst, you know, organizers and venues, and we could also do more of the collaboration and sharing on different level as well, and that would help us in the long way.
Yes, thank you so much, Monica. As always with these sessions, we are getting close to running out of time. I certainly think we have brought up several topics today that are things we'll want to pick up on and do future sessions on, especially the talent piece and the innovative models piece. So watch the space for that. But to close us out here today, I would like to leave, because I'm American, on a happy ending. So can I ask all of our panelists to give us one quick happy note, one quick positive trend you're expecting for this year? Kai, you want to start us off?
There's hope on the talent side. My 15-year-old daughter wants to intern with an organizer.
Mm.
Fantastic. Anybody want to put up their hands for Kai's daughter to come do a work experience? No, I'm just kidding. Sven, you want to give us a happy note?
Yeah, everybody's talking about the big resignation and people leaving their jobs because they don't feel passion, they don't feel a sense of belonging, etc. If there is one place which can offer all of that, it's the event industry. So for us, there's a big opportunity there.
And SENTHIL, do you want to have the last word?
I think in our industry that we all have been gone through quite a lot of difficulty, but the future, we all are talking about bright future. So that itself, it clearly shows that we all are very, very optimistic. So I keep hearing across the world, from morning till evening, making a call, everybody's saying we are planning to reopen, we are planning to relook at when our borders will open. So we are doing a huge amount of preparation work. So that's a very positive sign.
Great. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the panelists for sharing. Thanks for everybody who had questions today. Thank you for having patience with me trying out polls for the first time, because apparently it's my first Zoom call ever. These are not my slides, but they are perfectly fine. Can I have the next one, please? Nope. Nope. Okay, well, these are not the slides I wanted to show, and I'm not sure who is showing them, but what I was going to tell you is that the UFI market status tracker is up and constantly showing you what the latest country by country is on the global reopening. Also be on the watch out for the upcoming UFI events. We have our regional conferences coming up with Asia Pacific Week at the end of March, the European conference in May, and the LATAM conference in May as well. And as always, watch your email for the next UFI Connects. Thanks everybody, and I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.